Fans of competitive fighting games are some of the most passionate gamers out there, and many an hour of free time has been dedicated to honing one's skill at the craft. They aren't always the most social or even hygienic bunch, but there's something to be said about that level of passion. Being the best at anything is to be admired, and I at least have great respect for people who put 100% into any task, including gaming.
Oh, 100%. Oh, God damn it!
I know what that kind of passion feels like, even if I myself dedicated that emotion to evaluation rather than overall skill.
And I want to know what's going through your mind right now, because I don't understand the fact that you actually think that you can beat me!
I'm no slouch, but I certainly wouldn't call myself a pro. Fighting games are one of the big genres driving esports forward, and anyone willing to share the stage with those who made it a career better be prepared to bring their A-game. AAA if you've got it. That dedication to the game, coupled with recent criticisms in the media toward those who dedicate themselves to the game, prompted me to make this video, taking me all the way back to the beginning, to my first gaming console and my very first console game, Super Smash Bros., the quintessential party brawler, and a game that in my opinion has strayed that much further from the developer's original vision for it and the series. I'm Illakidra, and this is Growing Up a Gamer, why modern Smash Bros. Is no longer the game that we all knew and loved.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super Smash Bros., where all your favorite characters...
I was almost 8 when I got my Nintendo 64 in 1999. I don't quite remember what game I asked for, or if I even asked for a game. I was new to consoles, and the only games I even knew about were Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. But that didn't lessen my excitement when I cracked open my new console and slotted in the game that my parents had got me along with it. When I was little, I didn't care much about winning. Up to that point, I'd mostly played educational games and a little bit of the old Mortal Kombat. I played those games to see what would happen, and it became something to do. Getting the dub was the furthest thing from my mind. Then I booted up Smash Bros. For the first time. Here were the heroes of Nintendo, both known and unknown to me at the time, throwing down in the arenas of their worlds, finally determining once and for all who was the strongest. I'll give you a hint. Not me. It took me a week to beat the game with my best character, and a year to beat it with everyone else, as I kept getting distracted by other games. I couldn't even beat my older sister when I first started, and she barely touched video games, and played less than half as much as I did. When I finally could beat her on occasion, she up and quit! That left my friends and little brother as my only victims. Opponents. I became infamous among my friends, for years, as the one to beat. Oftentimes, the games devolved into every man against me, or searching for less dangerous prey in each other. This was just my local friends, of course, because outside the bigger world there were much better players than I. I was just the big kid on the block. This dynamic, plus my need to unlock all the characters, lit a fire in me. My Smash Bros. Experience was about having fun, but winning, that was a nice bonus. Smash Bros. Awakened my competitive spirit, and to this day, win or lose, I remember those days of early competition with fondness and nostalgia.
20 totally unexpected characters in one big brawl fest. Super Smash Bros. Melee, only for Nintendo Gamecube.
When I asked my parents for a Nintendo Gamecube for Christmas back in the 6th grade, what my first game on the system would be was obvious from the start. Super Smash Bros. Had a sequel, and it was sure to relight the match of my competitive spirit, and reinvigorate a pattern of play that had not changed much in the years since I first picked up Smash for the N64. This time, my little brother and I knew what we were getting into. We even talked our sister into a match or two. Smash was back and better than ever, with more characters, more stages, and more features than ever before. I, of course, blew my siblings away entirely. My sister was years out of practice and my brother was only 8. One thing I noticed was how much smoother the controls were, and how much more responsive the game was to control inputs. Some characters, namely Sheik and Mr. Game & Watch, seemed to respond more quickly than others. They were faster, and the openings created by their failed attacks were less punishing. It almost didn't seem fair. Was this a balance issue, or rather something easier on this character, but accessible to all if one merely understood the input lag associated with attacks? I didn't know it then, but I was becoming cognizant of a facet found in all fighting games. One that would serve to drag my favorite party brawler further and further from what I first loved about it. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was the last gasp of my favorite aspects of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Nintendo's last attempt to both cater to Smash Bros.' growing competitive scene and the original intent of the developers. Unbeknownst to me at the time, a movement had been growing within the Smash Bros. Community ever since the beginning, and had been given new life by the greater control and functionality introduced in Smash Bros. Melee. The signs were evident when Super Smash Bros. Brawl dropped back in 2008. Random elements were introduced to the game in order to foster that sporadic chaos the series was known for. Change directions too fast or execute a side smash after dashing? Well, you got between a 1 and 1.25% chance of tripping, opening yourself up to an attack.
He be tripping.
What's that, a smash ball? Bust that open and your final smash could clinch you the victory. Never mind that you were losing beforehand. In fact, this is an element that Masahiro Sakurai had wanted to add since the original game, which he revealed during an on-interview program, Iwata Asks. While the inclusion of tripping was viewed as counterproductive to the idea of a skill-based match with a minimum of chaotic chance-based elements. Just one problem with that. Smash is intended to be chaotic. It was around this time that I picked up Fox as my main, to counter my brother's new favorite, Falco. It was as if the competitive gremlins in the game had taken us over. What used to be a fun, chaotic play experience for us and our friends became a desperate struggle for victory. Or maybe he was just tired of losing, and those are my rose-colored glasses from the position of the victor. Brawl was the end of my total Smash superiority. When Smash 4 came out, it was clear to me that the developers had given in to the competitive crowd, or at least that's how it felt. They included an Omega mode that turned any stage into a flavored variant of Final Destination. A flat arena with no platforms or stage hazards. Now what does that look like? Take away the flashy effects and what are we left with? Exactly. And what does this mode remind you of? Exactly. If I wanted to play Street Fighter, then I'd give up on healthy emotional regulation and hire a therapist. Not turn my escapist fantasy into a stress simulator. My brother, on the other hand, availed himself of the opportunity to learn about frame data and inescapable combos, before proceeding to end my whole career. He's quit the game now as well, too, rage-inducing as it is, but not before he paid me back for beating him 95% of the time for almost 2 decades. Never leave the court cold, people. You gotta respect the man. I won't pretend that I know what the developers or player community around Smash are thinking. I can only go off of the general discourse surrounding the game, critical reception, and the words of developers in interviews. It's no secret that Smash creator Sakurai is not a fan of the competitive fighting games, or the discourse that surrounds them. Softball statements like, "We want to avoid a situation where it becomes a game sort of like other competitive fighting games, where it's only appreciated by a very small passionate group of maniac players." Or, "I don't think online play and Smash Bros. Are a very good fit for each other. One of the best parts of Smash Bros. Is how players can become champions among their friends, but being subjugated to online competition can cause people to lose confidence, which isn't great." These are nice ways of putting out there that he never wanted competitive to be a big part of Smash Bros. The man is known for having a strong vision for his titles and not wanting to deviate from that. At the same time, there's something to be said for letting players play their way. The only problem is, when the developers lose passion for a project, the product suffers, and I think that shows with some of the recent titles. So what do I think of modern Smash? Well, I give Smash Bros. A C in story. While story isn't something most people really look for in a fighting game, I can't just give it a pass for that reason alone. While the almost non-existent plots are nothing to write home about, the unique 2D exploration style of Subspace Emissary and World of Light are both unique and moderately entertaining. Gameplay, as much as it pains me to admit, is solid both in control and functionality. I honestly enjoy Smash controls more than any other fighting game. Balance in the characters could use some work, but overall, the more time you dedicate to the game, the more characters feel like an extension of oneself. A-. Structure is sufficient. No bugs that I know of that haven't been fixed, and the interface is intuitive enough, I suppose. Although I have to say the categorization could use some work. It can often take a new player, or even an old player who's taken a break from the game, several minutes to find and utilize a specific feature in the interface. And it's super annoying to be bombarded with updates every time you boot up the game. B-. With each new Smash Bros., as the skill ceiling grew higher and higher, the discourse around the game morphed to resemble that of other fighting games more and more. Does that make Smash a bad game? No. But it does make it a different game. And I'm not wrong for preferring the old party brawler style, just as others aren't wrong for preferring competitive. I just wish we'd all own up to it and stop pretending that the game has deviated greatly from the original intent. The game's creator certainly seems to think so. So hats off to the first 3 Smash titles. Well, and while I wish the games could stay that way, change is a part of life. And I could always go back and play the older games to remind me of what was, and may never be again. Thanks for watching. I'm Elakidra, and this has been Growing Up a Gamer, why Modern Smash Bros. Is no longer the game that we all knew and loved. Let me know your thoughts on Smash Bros. In the comments below, and like and subscribe if you're feeling so inclined. See you next time.